Eskom acting CEO Brian Molefe reduced the increase request to 9.5% from 12.7% for electricity. That's for the 2015-16 financial year. CNBC Africa reporter Mhundwa was at the regulator hearings today and now joins us to talk about that day. Well, let's find out why that number has changed. Sounds encouraging. What's behind it?
All right, so as part of the application of the increased 13% that Eskom is now asking for, there is a 2.51% there, and that's for an environmental levy that Eskom was anticipating that Treasury would have put into law by now. But, you know, at the very beginning of his presentation, the acting chief executive, Brian Molefe, actually got up to say, well, we now know that this isn't going to be gazetted anytime soon. So we do expect that if NERSA is to grant some kind of an increase here, they will probably exclude that 2.51%, given the fact that it hasn't been gazetted, so Eskom in actual fact wouldn't be paying that.
Well, it certainly sounds like there's a timing mismatch happening there, but there was also another debate that seemed to take center stage and talk us, and this is with Brian Molefe justifying the cost of diesel. Let's listen to him, make that justification. Maybe you'll give us some insight into it. Here's Brian Molefe talking about the cost of diesel and why South Africa will continue to spend on that front.
None of the alternatives to OCGTs are available at short notice. They will not be available. For example, Ankarlach and Horikwa, which are where we use the diesel, can be converted into gas turbines, but that will take 18 months, and that will require them to be out of commission for 18 months. The other alternatives are, for example, bringing in the barges, as people have suggested. We have looked at this. The cost of this is prohibitive. It costs about 9 rand kilowatt for a barge to give us electricity. But also it takes up to 24 months to mobilize these barges to South African shores. And so the OCGTs are at the moment the practical way of dealing with the problem.
Brian Molefe there. Christine, you were there today. Molefe has now had time to settle in. Is he persuasive? Is he sounding credible? He referred there to, I think he called them barges, but it's the concept of power ships. You park ships off the coast with huge batteries and you supply power.
Yeah, look, you know, I was at Eskom for a briefing 2 weeks ago. He was a lot stronger there than he was today. In fact, on about 2 occasions, he actually had to say to the chair, I'm new in the job, so please excuse me. Of course, other Eskom executives were there to field some of the questions as well. So tough questions came through from this panel. I mean, for him to be now talking and justifying these, the OCGTs that he's referring to, open cycle gas turbines, essentially came from after a presentation of telling us how crucial diesel is. Otherwise, if we don't use as much diesel as we're using, we'll have load shedding. I mean, he had all the beautiful pictures to get the point across. But like I say, David, he fell short at some times and actually had to rely on the other Eskom executives.
Well, we don't mind as long as they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's an interesting insight as well. But we're also aware there was another conversation taking place along the sidelines, and this is, of course, whether South Africans should be opting for more reliable electricity versus more expensive electricity. Now, one of the voices that brought some input into this conversation was from Dr. Yakuba Zyman, and he's from the Ferroalloys Producers Association. And here's his view on whether it should be cheaper or more reliable electricity.
We did a survey amongst all the energy-intensive users a while ago to see what most of the industry feels like about this issue in South Africa. And the general outcome was that the cost of electricity takes priority about the availability of electricity. Meaning, we don't really want to support electricity at all cost. Yes, we do prefer the reliant supply of electricity, but if the costs or the tariffs become too high, we close down. If it's not that reliable, it's a nuisance. So from that point of view, most of industry prefer lower cost electricity rather than 100% always available electricity.
So either way you lose, Christine. I mean, that's where we've got to.
Certainly. It was interesting. I mean, I spoke to him after that as well, and he's saying, you know, in fact, he put it to the public hearing that, you know, a lot of smelting companies are actually closing down, that some are considering moving to the likes of Mauritius because power is too expensive.
That's also very interesting, because that's not the only sector, of course, that's being impacted. And Monique Matthijs of the Chamber of Mines spoke about the impact of the tariff increase, not only on the economy, but on the mining sector in particular, and here's that comment coming through.
The tariff increases of the 24% suggested versus the current 13% planned is at a level that will increase the percentage of our industry that will be loss-making from on average 30% to closer to 60 to 70%. So with any cost increase, sure, you can absorb it, but there are consequences to that. And this level significantly impacts the ability of these sectors to sustainably continue producing and continue employing at the levels. We're going to need to consider even further mine closures or mine size reduction, putting them on care on maintenance, etc., which is not an optimal solution for us. And therefore, our appeal to explore other avenues, potentially alternative funding, as opposed to further tariff hikes.
No doubt that the negativity is going to be coming through, Christine, but what was your overall sense as you walked away from the energy regulators' public hearings about the state of consensus?
And I think the other half of that is, yes, no one wants the increases,
yes,
but maybe Eskom has to have them.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, Brian Molefe told me straight up, if they don't get this tariff increase now, 2 years later, the regulator has to give that money back to them after proving prudence, of course. So, you know, Eskom says, you know, rip off the plaster now, let's get through the pain now. But then there was also the other argument by the municipalities to say it's unlawful. Even if this tariff increase were to be granted, it can't be applied in this financial year. You can't increase the tariff in that financial year. So then there is a question of, okay, so they will get a promise, but they won't get the money.
You have to ask if Eskom is doing what the unions are doing, and that is starting high to get what they want lower.
Absolutely, and of course, paying back the money is one of the things that the Nigerians also have to do, and that's the state governments.
I wonder if Nkandla has power cuts.
That was CNBC Africa's reporter Christine Mhundwa. Thank you so much for making the time to join us.